Meet my niece. She's 3 years old, full of energy, and has a smile that can light up a room. She also has cerebral palsy, a condition that affects her muscle control and movement. But her biggest challenges aren't just medical, they're the assumptions people make about her abilities. This film is about her story and what it can teach us about the impact of ableism. Much like the movie Zootopia, where characters are judged and limited by stereotypes, my niece faces a world that too often sees her limitations instead of her potential. Cerebral palsy is a condition that affects movement, muscle tone, and coordination. Cerebral palsy occurs when there is damage to the developing brain, which can happen before, during, or shortly after birth, leading to abnormal brain development and affecting a person's ability to control their muscles. In Layla's case particularly, she has paraventricular leukomalacia, also known as PVL. This is where the white matter of her brain was damaged during birth. There are 4 different types of cerebral palsy: spastic, dyskinetic, ataxic, and there's also mixed types. The second way cerebral palsy is classified is based on what part of the body is being affected. For example, there is monoplegia, hemiplegia, diplegia, and quadriplegia. Layla is diagnosed with spastic quadriplegia. This is because all 4 of her limbs are affected and all of her muscles are very stiff and tight. Since Layla has to work 10 times harder to do simple tasks we take for granted every day, such as sitting up or even just lifting our head up, she has gone through physical therapy almost every day of her short 3 years of life. She is quite the trooper and endures many trips to the doctors, physical therapists, and even neurologists to see how her condition is progressing as she grows up. However, the real barriers she faces are rooted in ableism, a form of discrimination based on misconceptions about what people with disabilities can and cannot do. Ableism often leads to unfair assumptions and missed opportunities for those with disabilities, creating challenges beyond the medical ones they already face.
My name is Kaylin, and this is my daughter, Layla. Probably would be fighting with the doctors and insurance to get coverage for what she needs. Being your child's biggest advocate is sometimes one of the greatest jobs and sometimes one of the hardest jobs. There's things that doctors have suggested that I just flat out disagree with, and I pushed back on what they said and I gave them my reasoning for it, and most of the times it ends up being what's in Layla's best interest, because the reality is I'm the one that's with her every day and they are not. They are only seeing a snapshot of her life every 3 months. So a big thing that people assume, and this is everyone, doctors, random people, is that she can't talk because of her cerebral palsy. And that's not the case. She's actually has some verbal skills, and also just because you're nonverbal doesn't mean that they don't understand what you're saying. People just don't want to give her the time to try to talk. Yes, her GI specialist assumed that she wouldn't be able to put weight on because of her cerebral palsy. And they wanted to put her on a tube right away. And I said, no, let's not try that. Let's try other things first. And we actually put her on a high-calorie formula, and she gained weight great. When Layla was a year old, we went to the seating clinic to get her some medical equipment. I was trying to get her a gait trainer, which is basically equivalent to a walker. It just has a little more support than a typical walker that you would just kind of hold your arms on. And when we got there, they put kids in different ones to test how they were doing, and she was doing good standing in it, and the PT still would not approve one because they said she's too young. So I went and bought one anyway, and she's been walking in it great, and it's definitely helped improve her skills, her strength, and now we're going soon to get one from insurance. I tell people to stop looking at Layla as a kid with cerebral palsy and to just look at her as the toddler she is. And I also say, instead of feeling sorry for what she can't do, I tell them to be happy for what she's able to do. Because according to her brain injury, she shouldn't even be able to eat or drink on her own or move at all. And here we have her moving around on the floor and crawling and rolling, and she's walking and with assistance and learning to sit up. So I tell people to just try to enjoy their time with her as a regular toddler and not treat her differently because of her disability. I wish people would understand that these kids are still just kids, that Layla is just like any other toddler. She wants to play with toys, she wants to go to the park, she wants to roughhouse, and even though that looks very different for her than other toddlers, we still make it work and we still do everything that a toddler will want to do.
Unfortunately, my niece's story is far from unique. Studies show that people with disabilities face significant barriers in education, employment, and social inclusion, all rooted in biases that are often unconscious. By understanding these biases and addressing them, we can begin to create a society where individuals with disabilities have the same opportunities to succeed and thrive as anyone else. So, what can we do? We need to educate ourselves about ableism, speak up when we see discrimination, support policies and organizations advocating for disability rights, and most importantly, see people for their abilities and not their limitations. Thank you for taking the time to hear my niece's story. Let's work together to create a more inclusive world.